Welcome back to Tom's World Scale Model Series. In this installment, we undertake the building of our Meng Whippet British medium tank. If you enjoy programming on scale modeling, then show your support by subscribing to this channel. Leave us a comment, like, dislike, or share the video with friends. Clicking the notification bell gives you alerts when we post new content, or visit the channel Tom's World for a friendly visit for a complete list of all our videos. Our unboxing episode found a beautifully detailed and cast kit. The instructions were clear and easy to follow, and we found markings for 2 English, 1 White Russian, and even Balkenkreuz to depict a captured German vehicle. The kit also featured beautifully detailed Hotchkiss 303 machine guns and individually articulated snap-together track links. So stay with us as we undertake the construction of this highly detailed model kit of the vehicle that ushered in the era of fast cavalry armor. A few episodes ago, we built Meng's Pt1 and the kit was great. Our Whippet is from the same Tyrannosaurus line, so going into this project, we had high expectations. We indulged ourselves with a purchase of new sanding files for this project. These come in a 3-pack with 120 and 240 grit on opposite sides of each stick. These are great all-around sanders and make part cleanup a breeze. The Whippet has a multifaceted barbette built upon its boxy superstructure and chassis, and the kit mimics this construction, mostly with single pieces of angled styrene. To get our angled pieces to mate tightly, therefore avoiding gaps, the long sides of the pieces have to be precise. Our first challenge is cleaning up the sprue gates, which are cast onto the critical angled sides of some of the plates. When dressing these parts, we have to take care not to obliterate the crisp, sharp angled edges, which are crucial for a tight fit. One other odd feature that we find in Meng armor kits, these weird knockout mushrooms. Not sure how to describe them exactly other than they're weird. Good news is they're easy and kind of fun to snip off. Note the many knockout scars on the inside surfaces of the crew compartment sides. And here are most of the parts, sans the guns and their accessories, cleaned up and ready for assembly. The instructions call for detailed parts like the guns and mufflers to get installed fairly early in the build, but we'll set these parts aside for now since we want to paint them before they're installed. Here we see in detail how the Whippet is built up. We gained a little experience with assembling similar multifaceted structures in our Meng Pt1 project. It's important to remember, in spite of Meng's superb engineering, this type of assembly is not your fall into place, stupid easy to me a drill. We'll need patience, a little experience, and a few tools to get us through. Elastic bands, clothespins, and these alligator clamps will all come in handy. We'll also get good use out of these little 8-inch bar clamps. These are ideal for anyone serious about armor model building. As we work with Meng parts, we notice how beautifully sculpted and cast they are. Notice the stepped inset detail where the gun ball sits. Once the gun, ball mount, and flange are installed, the assembly will look functional and realistic. The good news is that Meng's casting and fit engineering is top-notch. We can see in our dry fit of the hull bottom how tight the part fit is. Once glued and pressed together, there'll be no noticeable gap. Some of the angled turret facets are cast as single pieces, and we bend them into shape. The pieces have chamfered edges cast into them. This scoring allows us to gently bend the parts to the proper angle. Other parts are assembled using these tongue and grooves. This helps with alignment, and we get the correct angle on the plates. And here's the crew compartment all glued up. The structure is quite complex with many facets with sides that are all interdependent. We patiently build up the structure plate by plate, doing our best to press the plate's sides together. In most places, we were able to get a tight fit on the plates. But in other places, well, not so much. No matter, since all these gaps will disappear once we fill them. The fuel tank is built up with this post and facet arrangement, and we bend the top and bottom pieces around the sides to complete the polygonal shape. Getting the crew compartment onto the hull was a little fidgety, since again we have to align a number of angular facets to an oddly shaped hole in the hull. Our bar clamps and elastics really came in handy. The crew compartment seems to be a bit of a misfit as originally designed. On one side, the turret overhangs the chassis, and an odd little plate seals the floor bottom. I guess this gives a little more elbow room for the adjacent machine gunners. There are 4 handles that get attached to the engine compartment access hatches. These are very small and fragile. This one got a bit distorted, but we can easily, albeit carefully, bend it back to the correct shape. We attach these handles after our hull is glued up. We don't want to accidentally break them off when we clamp the hull and turret parts together for gluing. Time to wade into the running gear assembly. In addition to our sanding sticks, a set of jeweler files makes tank wheel cleanup a breeze. A typical set comes with various profiles, and they're perfect for dressing styrene model parts. We use the files when we want to remove a lot of material quickly. This little hand file cuts on 3 sides. It's ideal if we have to file up against a surface that we don't want to damage. Before we dig into the running gear, it's worth noting the single sprue gates on some of the wheels. We don't have to be too fastidious about cleaning the gates off, since we can hide them in final assembly. We'll look at that later. Meng does a great job of engineering their kits. Even these tiny return rollers are keyed where the other half gets attached. The fit is so tight that the 2 halves snap together. The sprue gates on the drive sprockets are a little awkwardly placed. Nothing our sharp hobby knife, flat file, and sandy sticks can't handle. A total of 100 pieces make up the wheels, and here they are ready for assembly. We also get track grousers in the box. These are optional, but we'll prepare them all and decide later how many to attach. The grousers have 1 beefy sprue gate each, and one side has 2 small knockout depressions. There's also a noticeable parting line burr that runs longitudinally. 20 grousers in all, so we're in for a little bit of cleanup. Now that we're warmed up, it's time to tackle the tracks. They come as workable single links. The instructions call for 68 links aside for a total of 136. Although a little daunting, once we get a production line going, the links clean up fairly easily. And here they are, all cleaned up and ready for paint. The links snap together using this pimple and corresponding hole arrangement. No glue is necessary as the links fit tightly together once pressed into place. The individual links realistically capture how real tracks look and flex as they move around the running wheels and sprockets. Although at first glance the Whippet tank looks simple, with 100 wheel parts, 20 grousers, and 136 trank links to contend with, the model does require a bit of a time investment for cleanup and assembly. The Whippet features many small rollers, and they come in 2 slightly different forms. The wheels are inserted onto posts in an irregular pattern, and we must follow the instructions closely to get the wheel arrangement correct. Here's how the running gear looks once mounted on the large frame plate. And here's the assembly with the mud chutes installed. This design is eerily similar to the Matilda II, a design born 20 years later, but unlike the Matilda with its sprung-loaded bogies, the Whippet has no suspension. The part fit in this kit is superb. Here we've dry fit the entire running assembly. Dozens of parts hold together tightly with just 3 elastic bands. The rollers are pretty much hidden by the frame and tracks, so if we aren't keen about perfectly cleaning up the roller wheels of their sprue gates, we can easily hide any imperfections by gluing them at the 12 o'clock position. We'll install the machine guns, ball mounts, and flanges later so we can pre-paint them. The Hotchkiss 303s are beautifully cast with very fine detail. The barrels are solid, and although they're very tiny, we'll hollow the ends out to get a more realistic look. We bought this drill index for a KV1 build, and the smallest bit, the number 61, which is 0.039 inches in diameter, is just the right size. We start by sanding off any burr on the end of the barrel. We want the surface to be flat. Then with a new number 11 blade, we create an indent dead center of the barrel. This acts as a guide and helps prevent our bit from drifting. We then carefully drill out the barrel, pressing the bit into the indent we created with our number 11 blade. We only need a shallow hole to get the effect. These amazingly detailed ammo strips also come in the box. Sadly, I don't think we'll have a place for them, so they'll get stored safely in the spare stash for later use. These hooks get installed on the outer running gear frame plates. The towing cables are draped over them. The hooks are near microscopic and very fragile. We'll install these just before painting so we don't break them off when we glue and clamp up the running gear assembly. There are 2 tow cables that get installed and we have to cut them to length. The instructions provide a ruler so we get our lengths correct. Some boxings of this model include a length of string for the cables, but ours came with this thin braided wire. The cable loops are styrene and there's a slot on the back where the wire slips into. We flood the joint with thin CA, which creates a strong joint. And we can't forget these tools which get attached to the outside of the crew compartment. The Z-shaped bar is the starting crank handle and the wrench is used to tension the tracks. We'll paint these before installation on the turret side. With our major sub-assemblies complete and the rest of our parts cleaned up, we're ready to start painting and weathering. The overall simple looking form of the Whippet belies its moderate complexity and relatively high part count since many of the wheel parts are hidden within the running gear frame. The multifaceted crew compartment is also somewhat challenging to build, which makes this model better suited for experienced builders. And that'll do it for this episode. Check back soon as we take our Whippet project into the painting and weathering phase. If you haven't already, why not subscribe to the channel? Otherwise, leave us a like, dislike, share the video, or feel free just to grumble in the comments. Or visit the channel Tom's World for a complete list of all our educational and entertaining videos. In the meantime, keep your trenches and powder dry, stay well, and all the best.